YouTube, a Pathfinder Noob is back, and today we're going to be learning about skill feats. There are a lot of skill feats. There's a lot of feats. There's just a lot. So we're only going to be looking at the core rulebook for everything related to skill feats. We're not even going to get through all of them today. I don't even know how many parts there's going to be. There's a lot, but we're going to go right now. Okay. Catfall. Your cat-like aerial acrobatics allow you to cushion your falls. Treat falls as 10 feet shorter. If you're an expert, treat falls as 25 feet shorter. If you're a master, 50 feet shorter. And if you're legendary, you always land on your feet and you don't take damage, regardless of the distance of the fall. There's a lot going on here. First of all, I love how this scales. Scaling is and always will be something that I think is desperately missing from 5th edition. And the way that skill training works in Pathfinder just allows for such a great avenue of scaling to happen. But to remove fall damage completely? That's wild. That is so wild. Great skill, 10 out of 10 would absolutely take this. Quick squeeze. You squeeze 5 feet per round, 10 feet on a critical success. If you're legendary in acrobatics, you squeeze at full speed. This is a drastic improvement from 1 minute for every 5 feet of movement or 10 on a crit. What? It does feel very specific though. Squeezing has never been all that important in any of my campaigns, and an entire feat dedicated to just allowing you to do it a little bit faster. I don't know how often this would come up in the games that I play. Steady balance. You can keep your balance easily, even in adverse conditions. Whenever you roll a success using the balance action, you get a critical success instead. You're not flat-footed while attempting to balance on narrow surfaces and uneven ground. Thanks to your incredible balance, you can attempt an acrobatics check instead of a reflex save to grab an edge. I feel like some of these are just way better than others. I mean, we just had one that at legendary levels negates fall damage completely, or even just lessens it very drastically at lower levels, to just go into, hey, I squeeze fast. Call me the clencher, cause I'm squeezing through. And then you have this. It changes your saving throw, it removes the flat-footed condition, and it gives you crit success on normal success. Like, some of these are just way better than the others. Like, way better. Like, it's so obvious how much better it is, because not only is it giving more, but it's also far less specific. Honestly though, if I took this feat specifically, I'm pretty sure I would just be showing off all the time. Hey Jack, why is Leo on that log? Don't fucking ask questions, Jeff. I've got steady balance. I don't care if we're not doing anything, I'm using the feat. Nimble Crawl. You can crawl incredibly swiftly, up to half your speed rather than 5 feet. If you're a master, you can crawl at full speed. If you're legendary, you aren't flat-footed while prone. So this is just like the answer to my problem with crawling in Pathfinder. It's a feat. They just made crawling make sense with a feat. Rolling landing. You land with quick rolls that help you keep your momentum. If you fall and don't take damage, usually due to treating the fall as a shorter distance, you can use your reaction to immediately enter a short roll when you land and step. If you're an expert, you can use your reaction to step or stride up to half your speed. If you're a master, you can use your reaction to step or stride up to your full speed. And if you're legendary, you don't trigger reactions triggered by movement when you stride in this way. I realized I'm not actually sorting properly. This is from Firebrands, but this is really cool, so we're leaving it in. I feel like this is a really cool concept, but the way that it utilizes the 2 feats in tandem just makes me feel like you're putting in a lot of investment for the small amount of times that you're going to be falling great. Wait a minute. Rogue gets a skill feat every level? Every single, is that normal? Does everyone get a skill? Do you just get 20 of these by the time you're done? What the fuck? Kip Up. You stand up. This movement doesn't trigger reactions. You know, I didn't know this had a name. But also, it's a free action? Are all my problems with Pathfinder just solved by a feat? Arcane Sense. Your study of magic allows you to instinctively sense its presence. You can cast first level Detect Magic at will as an arcane innate spell. If you're a master, this spell is heightened to 3rd level. If you're legendary, it's heightened to 4th. Does this feat just, what? Like no spell slots that you expect whatsoever. It's free. And it's a feat? Just because you're good at magic? This is like really fucking cool. What? Oh my god, I'm falling in love with Pathfinder. Quick identification. You can identify magic swiftly. You take only 1 minute when using identify magic to determine the properties of an item, ongoing effect, or location rather than 10 minutes. If you're a master, it takes a 3-action activity, and if you're legendary, it takes 1 action. Again, I love this scale so much. It really, like in 5e, the only thing that actually scales is cantrips. As you level up, there are certain intervals where your cantrips also level up so that you're doing more damage when things get more powerful and healthier. This is that, but it's with skill feats. There are no feats in all of D&D that has scaling. This is great. There are so many skill feats too. Even if you were to just compare skill feats to 5th edition feats, I think there's more skill feats than there are 5th edition feats, and that's not counting any of the other feats that exist. I mean, to be fair, a lot of Pathfinder skill feats have been incredibly specific so far, and I don't know how often you're getting them in other classes, so for them being as specific as they are might not make them as good if you're not getting them as often. Especially when there is such a large pool to choose from, it's going to make a certain few stand out far more than the others. But the thing that really stands out to make this go above and beyond and way better than 5th edition is you're not choosing between one thing or another when you're taking a feat. In 5th edition, the only time that you get to take a feat is an optional pick instead of an ability score improvement at set leveled intervals. From what I can tell, there's no, hey, you get an ability score improvement or a skill feat, you get this or a skill feat. It's you get a skill feat plus the other things. That's massive. Recognize spell. Prerequisites: trained in Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion. Trigger: a creature within line of sight casts a spell you don't have prepared or in your spell repertoire, or a trap or similar object casts such a spell. You must be aware of the casting. If you were trained in the appropriate skill for the spell's tradition and it's a common spell of 2nd level or lower, you automatically identify it. You still roll to attempt to get a critical success, but you can't get a worse result than success. I hope there's more feats that are just like, hey, you can't get worse than a success. Good for you. You're good. You're good at what you do. You deserve that success. The highest level of spell you automatically identify increases to 4 if you're an expert, 6 if you're a master, and 10 if you're legendary. The GM rolls a secret Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion check, whichever corresponds to the tradition of the spell being cast. If you're not trained in the skill, you can't get a better result than failure. I feel like of all of the things that I have read so far, this would be something you can use far more often than anything else. But at the same time, I feel like that this gets sort of downplayed by meta knowledge as a player. The more you know about Pathfinder and its spells, the less likely you are to need to use this, because when you see someone casting something, you're like, I know that's Hold Person, or I know that's Fireball, or I know that's this. There's just this generality that started at my tables where people just have an understanding of what's being cast because they know a lot about Dungeons and Dragons. I know that delves into the meta, but I still think that this is something that it loses a lot because of meta knowledge. I think some spells are just too big for this, so I wonder if adding like a mechanical aspect to it where if you recognize the spell, you can then like put it in your spell book, and that's how that feat works, rather than just being like, oh, I know that's Fireball. No, now, oh, I know that's Fireball, and I have some sort of benefit to actually learning it and putting it in my spell book or something along those lines. You can save, wait, you can better save against it or have a higher AC? For how long? Can you just always do it? Maybe I misunderstood what this feat is for. Can you just always use your reaction to try and recognize the spell to get a +1? That's incredible! Trick magic item. You examine a magic item you normally couldn't use in an effort to fool it and activate it temporarily. What the fuck? What? I thought this was gonna be like forging a fake magical item, but you're tricking the item itself? What? This is fucking silly as shit. For example, this might allow a fighter to cast a spell from a wand or allow wizards to cast a spell that's not on their arcane list using a scroll. You must know what activating the item does or you cannot attempt to trick it. Attempt to check using the skill matching that item's magic tradition or matching a tradition that has the spell on its list if you're trying to cast a spell from that item. If you activate a magic item that requires a spell attack roll or spell DC and you don't have the ability to cast spells of the relevant tradition, use your level as your proficiency proficiency bonus and the highest of your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma modifiers. If you're a master in the appropriate skill for the item's tradition, you instead use the trained proficiency bonus, and if you're legendary, you instead use the expert proficiency bonus. So this tells me that magic items typically don't have the flat DCs that 5e's magic items do. In a lot of 5th edition magic items, when you get it, it just gives you, hey, this is a DC 13, this is a DC 15, this is a DC so-and-so, and you just use it, and it's that. But in Pathfinder, do the magic item DCs scale to your character's level? I really like that. It's something that I've been homebrewing and incorporating in my own world, but this is way better. Seems a little bit of a bummer that this takes one whole action, leaving you with 2 to activate the item, and then you have to try again. I wish there was a critical success that lets you have it for a few rounds rather than just your current turn. This has come up before where it feels a little bit gamey by saying that you'd have to wait a whole day to try and trick it again. It doesn't feel as gamey as the last thing that I'd mentioned, but I don't see how you'd fuck up so badly you can't use it again for a whole day. Magical Shorthand. Learning spells comes easily to you. If you're an expert in the tradition's associated skill, you take 10 minutes per spell level to learn a spell of that tradition rather than 1 hour per spell level. If you fail to learn the spell, you can try again after 1 week or after you gain a level, whichever comes first. Holy shit, I'm just now realizing that failing to learn a spell has way worse consequences than I thought it did. A whole level? I just don't understand how this is failing in such an extreme way. Why is there a cooldown on learning when logically you just have to write a new page and learn it? Maybe there's some lore shit that I just don't understand for how Pathfinder magic works. But could you imagine if you were in school and you were trying to learn a math equation and you failed, and then it's just, ha, guess I'm never learning Pythagorean's theorem until next week. Sorry, all my homework gets an F for the rest of the session. Like, what the fuck? If you're a master in the tradition's associated skill, learning a spell takes 5 minutes per spell level. If you're legendary, it takes 1 minute per spell level. You can use downtime to learn and inscribe new spells. Could you not use downtime before? What? Also wish the time for failure still scaled. It's really weird that you can learn something in a minute, quite literally learn something in a minute, or fuck up so badly that you can't learn it again for a week. Like, where's the logic here? Cause I'm not seeing it. This works as if you were using earned income with the tradition's associated skill, but instead of gaining money, you choose a spell available to you to learn and gain a discount on learning it. Learning it for free if your earned income equals or exceeds its cost. I don't understand how this makes sense. You earn income to learn your own spell? What? Why? I mean, I get that you could just like pay off the difference by spending time. That's cool. I like that. But like, why are you getting paid to learn a spell? Am I just so American that getting paid to learn things is bad? Oh, fuck. Quick recognition. You recognize spells swiftly. Once per round, you can recognize a spell using a skill in which you're a master as a free action. This is a cool improvement to the feat. Turning something from a reaction to a free action is pretty powerful, especially when it's giving you a +1 to your AC or a +1 to the saves just for free? Unified theory. You've started to make a meaningful connection about common underpinnings of the 4 traditions of magic and magical essences, allowing you to understand them all through an arcane lens. Whenever you use a skill action or a skill feat that requires a nature, occultism, or religion check, depending on the magic tradition, you can use Arcana instead. If you would normally take a penalty or have a higher DC using Arcana on other magics, such as when using Identify magic, you no longer do so. For something that makes you so good at Arcana, it's kind of a bummer that this is like a level 15 prereq. But overall, this is a really cool feat that goes a long way in making you feel like a great Arcanist. There's not a lot of feats that I've read so far that do just that, make you feel really good at the one skill, but I think this exemplifies it more than what I've read so far. However, as this rounds off Arcana, I'm finding myself a little underwhelmed. This is the first feat that makes me feel rewarded for being an Arcanist, for being good at Arcana. And it comes so late down the line. I hope there's something more in the arcane casting classes that kind of makes Arcana feel a little bit more badass, but we'll see. A lot of these seem to revolve more around general skills than Arcana itself. Combat Climber. Your techniques allow you to fight as you climb. You're not flat-footed while climbing and can climb with a hand occupied. You must still use the other hand and both legs to climb. This kind of just echoes what I wanted before, and that's that I want to have some sort of fight where you're all just hanging off of a cliff. It sounds super badass, but it also sounds way too specific for anything. How often am I fighting and climbing at the same time that I need this feat? Not often in the games that I play, and if they're often in your campaigns, that's awesome. Give me that. I want more random shit like that where a feat like this would happen far more than it does in any campaign I've played. Hefty Hauler. You can carry more than your frame implies. Increase your maximum and encumbered bulk limits by 2. Cool. I don't like encumbrance. Something tells me I'll like it less in Pathfinder. Quick jump. You can use high jump and long jump as a single action instead of 2 actions. If you do, you don't perform the initial stride, nor do you fail if you don't stride 10 feet. This reminds me of something that a monk would just get in 5e using Step of the Wind, and that's really cool. It makes me wonder if there are other feats that are similar to this in like class feats, and like what if you're an inexperienced player? Could you sort of overlap feats? Does that happen? Would there be a feat that affects your high jump in skill feats and in class feats, and then you can just have the same thing? I'm curious how that would work, and if that does happen, or if there's like no overlap in skill feats and class feats and race feats and so on. Titan Wrestler. You can attempt to disarm, grapple, shove, or trip creatures up to 2 sizes larger than you or 3 sizes larger than you if you're legendary in athletics. This is one of those things that feels super specific, but it works if you're building a certain type of character. Like, these are things that you can actively seek out to do, as opposed to, like, you can't actively seek out mountains to climb and fight alongside of, but you can actively seek to grapple creatures, and you're often against creatures that are larger than you as opposed to cliffs. I did expect a little bit more from the name, Titan Wrestler, as just Although I am now imagining a little halfling that's going around just wrestling everything. Underwater Marauder. You've learned to fight underwater. You're not flat-footed while in water, and you don't take the usual penalties for using a bludgeoning or slashing melee weapon in water. First of all, 10 out of 10 skill feat name. We're in really great skill feat name territory right now, and I am thriving. Considering everything that I learned about the water in Pathfinder is dangerous as all fuck, I'm not surprised that there are feats that make that better. I do think you'd still probably drown though. Powerful Leap! When you leap, you can jump 5 feet up with a vertical leap, and you increase the distance you can jump horizontally by 5 feet. And we're losing the cool names, but that's okay. Honestly, this is just an underwhelming 5 feet bump. There's cooler stuff out there than this. I mean, if you're trying to min-max your jump and you have access to a lot of skill feats, then hell yeah, this is gonna go a long way in min-maxing your jump. But as a standalone, observing it by itself, I'm not whelmed. Rapid Mantle. You easily pull yourself onto ledges. When you grab an edge, you can pull yourself onto the surface and stand. You can use athletics instead of a reflex save to grab an edge. Oh, this is like that one skill feat in acrobatics that we just talked about. But it's for strong people instead. Although, like, the acrobatics version is better, right? Like, you get more things than just this. Am I wrong? This just gives you a free stand as opposed to no balance penalties. Quick Climb. When climbing, you move 5 more feet on a success and 10 more feet on a critical success to a maximum of your speed. If you're legendary in athletics, you gain a climb speed equal to your speed. Quick Climb is just a synonym for Rapid Mantle, right? Yeah. Am I just like missing out on all these campaigns that have so much climbing in them that there needs to be 2 feats? I mean, granted, this is again doing what the crawling feat did, where it just gives you the normal like 5e equivalent of a climb speed, although it does go above with legendary and just gives you a climb speed, which is basically just what, a fucking thief subclass feature that you get at level 3. But that's not the point. Either way, who is climbing this much? What, are you fucking just playing a campaign where you're on the back of Gaia from fucking God of War 3 and you're always climbing? Why are there so many climbing feats? Who is climbing this much? Quick Swim. You swim 5 feet farther on a success and 10 feet farther on a critical success to a maximum of your speed. If you're legendary in athletics, you gain a swim speed equal to your speed. This is the same, but it's different. But it's the same, but it's it's the same, but it's different. I mean, like, these are just things that you get in 5e for free, and now they're skill feats, I guess, dude, but I don't fucking know, man. This is underwhelming as shit. Wall jump. You can use your momentum from a jump to propel yourself off a wall. If you're adjacent to a wall at the end of your jump, whether performing a high jump, long jump, or leap, you don't fall as long as your next action is another jump. Furthermore, since your previous jump gives you momentum, you can use the high jump or long jump as a single action, but you don't get to stride as part of the activity. You can use wall jump only once in a turn unless you're legendary in athletics, in which case you can use wall jumps as many times as you can use consecutive jump actions in that turn. I feel like I'm gonna spend a lot of time in Pathfinder just wishing that I was legendary in skills. It's not often that I wish that I was like level 20 and had level 20 features, but I feel like with all these skill feats, I'm just gonna be like, man, when I'm legendary, I'm gonna be real fucking cool, but that's in like 30 fucking sessions, and then, you know, probably like another 40, but then the campaign's gonna fall apart and Jim's gonna leave. He's got a job. Fucking Jeff just had a kid. He can't come anymore. And then the whole campaign fell apart. All right, time to start a new campaign from level 1. Man, are you gonna love it when I'm legendary. Cloud jump. Your unparalleled athletic skill allows you to jump impossible distances. Triple the distance you long jump, so you could jump 60 feet on a successful DC 20 check. When you high jump, use the calculation for long jump, but don't triple the distance. You can jump a distance greater than your speed by spending additional actions when you long jump or high jump. For each additional action spent, add your speed to the limit of how far you can leap. I feel like if I just wanted to like make a character that could jump well, Pathfinder is the greatest fucking system in the world. But like, what's the appeal here, guys? Where's the jump king? Can someone that loves jumping in Pathfinder please explain to me what the appeal is? Because as an outsider looking in, I don't get it. I want to get it, but I don't get it. Hey, before we get back into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It goes a very long way into helping these videos out. So do your comments, which always I appreciate very much. Keep informing me. I do my best to at least read every single one and comment on all the ones that I can comment back to. Alchemical Crafting. You can use the craft activity to create alchemical items. When you select this feat, you immediately add the formula for 4 common first level alchemical items to your formula book. So alchemical, snare, and magical crafting are all pretty much the same, so we're covering them in this just one little guy here. As you can see, this is snare crafting, same big snare, and this is magical crafting, and it's got a bit of a difference, but not much. I'm definitely making a note here in this moment to go through and look at the formulas to make a video on some basic formulas because I keep seeing that they exist. I love the way that crafting replaces artisan tools, and the idea alone just gives me so much hope for Pathfinder. Just so much hope. Quick repair. You take 1 minute to repair an item. If you're a master in crafting, it takes 3 actions. If you're legendary, it takes 1 action. Specialty crafting. Your training focused on crafting one particular kind of item. Select one of the specialties listed below. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to crafting checks to craft items of that type. If you are a master in crafting, this bonus increases to +2. Some specialties might apply only partially. For example, if you were making a morning star and had a specialty in woodworking, the GM might give you half your bonus because the item requires both blacksmithing and woodworking. So does this mean that the craft skill means you can do everything in this table, and this feat gives you the circumstance bonus, or are you specialized in certain things you craft? Either way, fuck artisan tools, praise crafting. Impeccable Crafting. You craft flawless creations with great efficiency. Whenever you roll a success at a crafting check to make an item of the type you chose with specialty crafting, you get a critical success instead. Inventor. You're a genius at crafting, easily able to determine how things are made and create new inventions. You could spend downtime to invent a common formula that you don't know. This works just like the craft activity. You spend half the price of the formula up front. Attempt a crafting check, and on a success, either finish the formula by paying the difference or work longer to decrease the price. The difference is that you spend additional time in research, design, and development rather than in creating an item. Once it's complete, you add the new formula you invented to your formula book. What's the point of spending 50 gold and some time to buy something when you could just go buy something for 50 gold? I get that not everywhere is going to have it available, so that might be a thing, but I feel like I just don't DM in such a way that this makes sense. I feel like you either buy it for 50 gold or you spend time and then you fucking make it for 25 gold. Like what? Why would you buy it for the same price that it would take you 3 days to make it with the same price? I do think it's cool that you can make your own formulas though. Craft anything. You can find ways to craft just about anything despite restrictions. As long as you have the appropriate crafting skill feats, such as magical crafting for magic items and meet the item's level and proficiency requirement, you ignore just about any other requirements, such as being of a specific ancestry or providing spells. The only exceptions are requirements that add to the item's cost, including castings of a spell themselves that have a cost and requirements of special items such as the Philosopher's Stone that have exclusive means of access and crafting. I'm sorry, what did you say? The Philosopher's Stone? Full Metal Alchemist up in this bitch? Let's go check it out! It's not. It's its own thing. It has no ties to Full Metal at all. I'm sad. Still a cool idea though. But it's a lot of shit that's above my understanding at the moment, so I'm not even gonna go into it. Charming Liar. Your charm allows you to win over those you lie to. Whenever you get a critical success using the lie action, the target's attitude towards you improves by 1 step as though you succeeded at using diplomacy to make an impression. This only works once per conversation, and if you critically succeed against multiple targets using the same result, you choose one creature's attitude to improve. You must be lying to impart seemingly important information, inflate your status, or integrate yourself, which trivial or irrelevant lies can't achieve. One of the things that I don't really like about 5e is that the charisma related feats are just extraordinarily underwhelming. Actor is cool, but it's not as good as anything else. This just feels so much more tangible in what it can do and how it can help you. And on top of that, there's also a ton of skill feats for deception, diplomacy, and intimidation, which is just wonderful. However, my gut's telling me that I don't like that this skill is just like, yeah, you make an impression, it works. I've come into a lot of situations where my players are very much just like, I want to persuade. I want to investigate, I want to insight, I want to just insert skill here, rather than telling me what it is they want to do or what it is they want to say. And I feel like this is just like, hey, I want to use this feat on this person, and then they roll, and then, all right, cool, now I've made an impression. But that's just the immersion with certain charisma-related abilities kind of falls through when you just turn it into like the equivalent of push A to lie. I would rather my players say something to actually give those things credence, but I understand that role-playing is not everyone's forte, and this can go in both worlds. However, to the benefit of the rules, it does say trivial and irrelevant lies do not get what you want, and I think that that goes a long way for me as a DM enjoying this skill more than if it would have removed that sentence. Lengthy diversion. When you critically succeed to create a diversion, you continue to remain hidden after the end of your turn. This effect lasts for an amount of time that depends on the diversion and situation as determined by the GM. Minimum 1 additional round. This is another one of those feats that just gives tangible rulings to things that don't really have mechanical written rules in 5th edition. It really makes me wonder how inspired I'd be to get into crazier shenanigans if I had this structure in place to inspire me. Especially with the character that I'm playing now in 5th edition being a rogue. Lie to me. You can use deception to weave traps to trip up anyone trying to deceive you. If you can engage in conversation with someone trying to lie to you, use your deception DC if it's higher than your perception DC to determine whether they succeed. This doesn't apply if you don't have a back and forth dialogue, such as when someone attempts to lie during a long speech. How do you even know when to use this? I mean, sure, like there's some lying that's obvious, but wouldn't this have to be something done by the GM behind the screen? This feels like weirdly situational. I mean, I guess I can imagine a few scenarios where this would make sense. Specifically when you go into a situation knowing someone's not going to tell you the truth. But even then, this is only something that's supposed to help you find out when someone's lying to you, and if they're lying to you, that like you already know. Like you're going into that situation already knowing that it doesn't make sense. This is a weird one. This is basically just, I know how to lie, so I know when I'm being lied to. But only if we're having a back and forth dialogue. I don't know. I feel like this might just be a better feat in my head if it just replaced it instead of being situational. Confabulator. Even when caught in falsehoods, you pile lie upon lie. Reduce the circumstance bonus a target gains for your previous attempts to create a diversion or lie to it from +4 to +2. If you're a master in deception, reduce the bonus to +1. If you're legendary, your targets don't get these bonuses at all. Feats like this check all of the boxes for me. It's not situational. It applies anytime you fail at something you'll likely be doing often. It provides a very obvious bonus when you're not doing very great. And to top it all off, it fucking scales. I love it when shit scales. disguise. Quick disguise. You can set up a disguise in half the usual time, generally 5 minutes. If you're a master, it takes 1/10 the usual time. If you're legendary, you can create a full disguise and impersonate as a 3-action activity. I feel like Pathfinder did a solid for all the people that want to run low magic campaigns. This is disguise self, but without any of the magic. I feel like because of disguise self, the actual disguise kits and utilizing like real world disguises are something that are so underutilized. I wonder how the actual disguise self spell works in Pathfinder and how it equates to doing something like this. Would it just make more sense to get a feat that gives you disguise self as a spell, or is this better? Is this just a flavor way? Like, I'm curious how it all sort of wraps up into one full bundle once you have all the information. Slippery secrets. You elude and evade attempts to uncover your true nature or intentions. When a spell or a magical effect tries to read your mind, detect whether you're lying, or reveal your alignment, you can attempt a deception check against the spell or effect's DC. If you succeed, the effect reveals nothing. This reminds me of the non-detection spell, I think. Maybe? I've never used non-detection, but I feel like I've read it a couple times hoping I'd want it, but I don't really like have campaigns where it would be useful, so I forget what it does. Besides the point, this is that, but it just, you're being a super badass. You're so good at lying that you're tricking up spells and all this other shit. The more I read these feats in Pathfinder, the more that I realize that 5e's lacking specialization. When I think of specialization, I'm thinking of like this hunk of iron that gets honed into a sword. Right? So when you're good at deception, you're taking that hunk of iron and turning it into a deception sword. In 5e, the best you could ever do is just kind of put that hunk of iron on a stick and make a fucking hammer. So like, it's just, 5e's lacking a lot, and I'm learning that Pathfinder gives a lot. Bargain hunter. You can earn income using diplomacy, spending your days hunting for bargains and reselling at a profit. You can also spend time specifically sniffing out a great bargain on an item. This works as if you were using earn income with diplomacy, except instead of getting money, you purchase the item at a discount equal to the money you would have gained, gaining the item for free if your earned income equals or exceeds its cost. Finally, if you select Bargain Hunter during your character creation at first level, you start with an additional 2 gold. This feels kind of dumb. I guess, I mean, like, you don't use diplomacy for earn income, but earn income doesn't say that you can't use diplomacy for earn income. It just says, like, typically it's this, and that. If you're only proficient in diplomacy, sure, but, like, you get more than 1 skill proficiency, so you probably got lore somewhere in there. You could just use lore and make money, and, like, why invest an entire skill fee into this just to get 2 gold as starting level? I don't know. Just buy the fucking thing with money that you have that you're gonna make with the earn income from something else. If you're earning income with lore, it's the same thing. Hey, the money that I earned, I'm just gonna put to this item. So like, really, this is just, the DM it all works out to be the same thing. I don't understand some of these things in Pathfinder, man. Group impression. When you make an impression, you can compare your diplomacy check result to the will DCs of 2 targets instead of 1. It's possible to get a different degree of success for each target. The number of targets increases to 4 if you're an expert, 10 if you're a master, and 25 if you're legendary. Oh, 25? That's a lot. Like, if you're a DM, are you rolling all 25? I mean, are you rolling all 10? That's a lot of rolls. I'm curious why this doesn't exist for deception, right? Like, this feels very soapboxy, very political. Like that one dude from Persona who's just, he's outside speaking his piece. We all know that politicians are corrupt. Why would this not be also deception? They're all fucking lying to you. They don't care. They don't give a shit. Why can't you do this, but with deceiving people? Hobnobber. You are skilled at learning information through conversation. The gather information exploration activity takes you half as long as normal, typically reducing the time to 1 hour. If you're a master in diplomacy, you gather information at normal speed. When you attempt to do so and roll a critical failure, you get a failure instead. There's still no guarantee that a rumor you learn with gather information is accurate. First of all, Hobnobber. What a name. I remember back to the first campaign that I played, I was trying to infiltrate a resistance group, and this is basically what I was trying to do, but I didn't know how to do it. So I was just trying to talk and I wasn't good at role playing yet. I had no idea what was going on. And I kind of wish that I had this feature to guide me because I was lacking a lot of guidance back then. But that's what this is, and that's cool. I like it. There's something about mechanical feats that give ideas and actions to things that are intangible in 5e. And the point that I'm trying to get at is just this is really cool and helps inspire when you're uninspired and don't know what to do. Anyway, there's like an unofficial rule called taking 20, where basically you take 20 minutes in game to do something and it's effectively just rolling a 20 on the dice, and that's kind of what this feels like. Also, I love whenever the rules remind you that it's not just a gimme when you have a feat. Although there are a lot of feats that don't remind you of that and just kind of make it seem like there are gimmies, and I don't like those feats. Glad Hand. First impressions are your strong suit. When you meet someone in a casual or social situation, you can immediately attempt a diplomacy check to make an impression on that creature rather than needing to converse for 1 minute. You take a -5 penalty to the check. If you fail or critically fail, you can engage in 1 minute of conversation and attempt a new check at the end of that time rather than accepting the failure or critical failure result. Glad hand me before hopping my knobber. Why are diplomacy feats innuendos? What is happening here? It's not much, but like it gives you a free attempt, and if you fail, it lets you try again with it. This is advantage. This is just, it gives you advantage, but you have a minute in between the rolls. Shameless Request. You can downplay the consequences or outrageousness of your requests using sheer brazenness and charm. When you request something, you reduce any DC increases for making an outrageous request by 2, and if you roll a critical failure for your request, you get a failure instead. While this means you can never cause your target to reduce their attitude towards you by making a request, they eventually tire of requests, even though they still have a positive attitude towards you. I feel like there's a lot of feats in the charisma skills that take away from role-playing to give statistical bonuses. The way that this is worded reminds me of a situation where I'd want to reward my players for their roleplay. If they had sheer charm and brazenness in their role-playing, I would just want to give them this in the actuality of things rather than there needing to be a feat that makes it happen. I would want to incorporate it as a reward rather than just having it be a feat that happens. I feel like charisma skills and feats are hard to create because it's a fine line between, hey, you did really good roleplay, I want to reward, and here's just a thing for, making that easier. It's a hard line to find the middle of. I do like that it gives you the ability to lean into making requests of your allies. You can never critically fail, and it doesn't worsen your impression with them, it just makes them tire of hearing your requests. Legendary Negotiation. You can negotiate incredibly quickly in adverse situations. You attempt to make an impression and then request your opponent cease their current activity and engage in negotiations. The amount of times that this has happened in any game that I've run, especially early on, is astronomical. And it's almost never worked because the party always tries to do it against the opponents that are the least likely to ever engage in any form of negotiation. The fact that this is legendary makes me feel really justified in the way that I handle a lot of those situations, but it doesn't take away the fact that I feel bad whenever they roll a nat 20 in those situations, and I'm just like, the skeleton with no mental fortitude is not going to try and stop and negotiate. I don't know what to tell you, but it sucks because she just rolled a nat 20. I don't know what to do. You take a -5 penalty to your diplomacy check. The GM sets the DC of the request based on the circumstances. It's generally at least a very hard DC of the creature's level. Some creatures might simply refuse, and even those who agree to parley might ultimately find your agreements lacking and return to violence. This is written just... I don't know if you need to have the -5 with the fact that this is a legendary skill feat. I'm sure that your diplomacy at legendary levels is already like a +36, so a -5 isn't really going to make that much of a difference, but still, it's, do you. However, giving you the generalization of what DC to use is pretty cool. I feel like again, scale in 5th edition is lacking because it just goes from like really easy to impossible, and that never changes. But if you're a level 20 creature, your very hard DC is going to be different than a level 1 creature. Honestly, I think this is a really cool way to set DCs that make it dynamic as opposed to stagnant. And you're getting the ability to outright refuse your feat. It just allows you to have the possibility to wiggle your way into something good. It doesn't force the DM to sort of halt anything going on. It gives the DM room to be like, hey, you have a chance here, but you also don't because you're in the middle of a fight, so you better make it good. This is honestly everything that I would want from any feat in this nature. I wish you got it a little bit earlier and it sort of scaled in a way to go from very difficult to difficult, but it's okay. I do think that I'd like to have it be a blanket rule as opposed to a feat, just because of how often my players try to do this regardless of any feat in existence. Group Coercion. When you coerce, you can compare your intimidation check result to the will DCs of 2 targets instead of 1. It's possible to get a different degree of success for each target. The number of targets you can coerce in a single action increases to 4 if you're an expert, 10 if you're a master, and 25 if you're legendary. This is the same as the diplomacy one. There's not one for lying. Why is there not one for lying? If it feels like it would be much easier to lie to 25 people than to intimidate 25 people. I mean, I get it. You could be as scary as you want, but intimidating 25 people, I don't know how easy that is. There's 25 of us, and there's only one of you. But trying to lie to 25 people, that's basically just like an entry meeting to a multi-level marketing scheme. Like, come on, it makes sense. Intimidating glare. You can demoralize with a mere glare. When you do, demoralize loses the auditory trait and gains the visual trait, and you don't take a penalty if the creature doesn't understand your language. This is just the lazy eye from Five Goes West.
Oh, gee, I'm afraid to ask. Okay, what's the lazy eye?
The lazy eye.
Quick coercion. You can bully others with just a few choice implications. You can coerce a creature after 1 round of conversation instead of 1 minute. You still can't coerce a creature in the midst of combat or without engaging in conversation. At least they learned to optimize bullying. Holy shit, I'm still scarred from the fact that it takes 60 seconds to actually coerce someone. 60 seconds of pure straight bullying. I'd take 6 seconds of optimized bullying over 60 seconds any day. Intimidating prowess. In a situation where you can physically menace the target when you coerce or demoralize, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to your intimidation check, and you ignore the penalty for not sharing a language. If your strength score is 20 or higher and you're a master in intimidation, the bonus is increased to +2. This is a more simple feat that takes very basic things and just here you go. I've never been big on making scary, strong, intimidating characters, but you know, like there are a lot of people who love that shit and this is for them, and this isn't a bad feat to take if that's you. Lasting coercion. When you successfully coerce someone, the maximum time they comply increases to a week, still determined by the GM. If you're legendary, it increases to a month. A week? What was it before? Damn, dude, like how scared of someone do you have to be to comply for a week? I mean, I get it. It was 1 day before, but now a week, like you get to bed, you're like, oh my God, today sucked, but I never have to see that guy again. To, oh God, oh, I gotta, okay, he needs me to, I'm gonna do it. We're gonna be fine. It's, you know, we just gotta do this for a week. It's okay. Oh my God, a month though? Like, homie, just leave. Just go get a new life. If someone scared you so much that you're doing something for an entire month, just go. Be gone. Never be in their life again. Just run. Pathfinder is doing a damn good job at making me realize just how terrifying it can be to intimidate someone. Battle cry. When you roll initiative, you can yell a mighty battle cry and demoralize an observed foe as a free action. If you're legendary in intimidation, you can use a reaction to demoralize your foe when you critically succeed at an attack roll. Firstly, as a free action as rolling part of initiative is something that should be a sentence that occurs for multiple things. That is such a simple little thing that you can give someone. I love it. I want more of it. And the way that it scales is terrifying. I just imagine that whenever this person that has this feat crits against someone, they just bark. That's it. That's the whole thing that they do. And that's what happens every time they crit. You just had your hand cut off by some dragonborn and then it barks at you. It doesn't roar. It doesn't scream. It just barks. That's unsettling. It doesn't make any sense. and it's terrifying. Sane people would leave, never come back, retire, become a tavern keeper, tell the story as a warning of the time where the Dragonborn, covered in your own blood, barked at you while your hand was flying through the air to land in the ranger's bear's mouth, and then just your hand's gone forever. No healing's bringing that back. You're just gone now. You're done. Your life is just this story. Now that's your whole personality, trying to make sure no one ever does this ever again. Terrified Retreat. When you critically succeed at a demoralize action, if the target's level is lower than yours, the target is fleeing for 1 round. I appreciate how simple and straightforward everything with Intimidation is. It's just all geared towards combat, basically. This skill and Battle Cry in tandem seem really powerful together. I don't know how often something like a Barbarian gets skill feats, but if you can do it relatively quickly, getting these two together seems like a really powerful tandem. Though if you're a rogue, getting these two back to back would be really easy. Although an intimidating rogue would be really weird, but kind of cool. Scared to death. Scared to death? Die? Like they die? I haven't read this yet, but I'm like, what is it gonna actually do it? I don't think it's gonna do it. I think it's just gonna be like, oh, scared to death. You get like, you're gonna die. Oh no. It's gonna be like half of it. It's not gonna be like the whole death thing, right? You can frighten foes so much they might die. Well, they did it. They're doing it. You're just gonna lazy eye him to death. That's, wow, okay. Attempt an intimidation check against the will DC of a living creature within 30 feet of you that you sense or observe, and who can sense or observe you. I'm sorry, excuse me. You mean like they just, sense? You could just do it through sense? Yeah, you don't have to see him. You could just, he's over there. And then heart attack. He's dead now. What the fuck? If the target can't hear you or doesn't understand the language you were speaking, you take a -4 circumstance penalty. The creature is temporarily immune for 1 minute. They don't need to understand you. I mean, I did the bit already, but could you imagine? Just, you're beautiful, you're sane, you're valid, you're dead. And then you just die. You get complimented and then you just die. This is the wildest feat for the wildest character type. I love it. I understand there needs to be checks and balances in place before outright killing someone, but I do feel a little bummed that you first have to make an intimidation check and succeed against that, then they have to make a fortitude save and critically fail against that. I don't know. Maybe I wish it was more tied to health or something, but I would want this to happen more often than not. I mean, I guess there's always a chance you could just do it to the big bad and have it be the first round of combat and then they die. I wish there was a more obvious and easier way to make this work. I think there's a monk skill in 5th edition that has something similar to this, but it's not really here nor there. This is weird though. It says fleeing 1 on any other result, but then literally doesn't say that on any other result. It feels like an oversight. I imagine moments at the table where this succeeds and how wild it must be, and how many people tell stories of their barbarian who scared a person to death. I think the way that Pathfinder handles character building is truly wonderful. When I first dove into this script, I was looking at the rogue feats first because I didn't understand how to read what I was looking at, and then I realized that these were rogue feats and I needed to be looking at skill feats, and then I saw this rogues table and I saw that you get rogue feats, you get skill feats, you get ancestry feats. It's just such a medley of feats that you use to build up your character, and that's so not what 5th edition is. It's so freeing, and I'm really excited to get into making an actual rogue, but we got to get through these skill feats first. Honestly, Pathfinder just gets cooler and cooler the more that I continue to learn about it. We'll be back next week with part 2 of skill feats. Until then, be well, eat well, sleep well, dream well.